understand who we're discussing. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN's cash cow, and former NBA player turned professor John Amaechi on Dan Le Batard's program. Amaechi had this to say when reacting to first this video.
At eGirlsXO, Stephen A., which city in the U.S. has the best looking women? And why is it Miami? Well, first of all, you answered the question. It's Miami. Miami is special. It's special. And I'm not just talking about the city of Miami. I'm talking about the outskirts. I'm talking about going towards Coral Gables. I'm talking about South Beach. I'm talking about, near Fort Lauderdale. I'm talking about Coral Gables, like I said before. Little Cuba, Miracle Mile, all of those spots. You know it's bad in Miami when one of the finest women you ever saw in your life is at a gas station pumping gas in Miami. That's when you know this place is different. Like different. I'm talking about the kind of beauty that stops traffic. Cats getting in car crashes because they screeching on their brakes, causing 3-car accidents and stuff like that. And then the accidents happen, and then people are like, what the hell is wrong with you? And they all look over at the gas station and go like this, oh, I understand. Miami's like that. It really is like that. That's why I don't hang out in Miami. That's why I don't hang out in Miami.
So that was Stephen A.'s video in full that he posted on Twitter. Here was Amaechi's response.
Miami's like that.
Okay, super creepy. Incredibly creepy. That is incredibly... I mean, talk about giving child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang vibes right there.
I get the reference. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I know what he's talking... I know what
Sure.
I'm sure
you
what
cut him
Stephen
like
A.
a
Smith's
knife,
talking
though.
about. I don't know what you're
The
talking
way
about.
he moved his fingers when he was talking at the beginning, as if he's just about finished licking them after eating chicken, that is gross. If I wasn't already gay, I'd be gay after watching that.
Incredible. Now, before we get into it, I have a new channel that's coming out. If you can, please go subscribe to it. I'm going to be doing an interview-based show where I talk to people that are really, really interesting to me. Could be in sports, could be in music, could be an author, a journalist, an activist. It could be a teacher. It could be a sports doctor. I'm going to go all across the board, baby. So please go subscribe. Now, of note, Amaechi publicly came out as gay in 2007. He was the first NBA player to do so at the time. Amaechi, before we get into it actually, would also say this of a certain someone.
On another front, can I just say that I hate Elon Musk? There are very few people in this world that I devote the energy to hate, and I devote energy to hate. He's a cuckoo, and I don't understand why people don't recognize this. He's a cuckoo. He doesn't found anything or invent anything. I'm not suggesting he's not clever, but he doesn't found anything. He's just a cuckoo. He arrives in a nest and pushes out the founders and then opens his gob wide and forces the government to feed him subsidies, and then flits off to another nest and pushes out another couple of founders and gorges on the public purse. Ugh. Do an AI image of that, why don't you?
That being, of course, Elon Musk.
I don't like bullies, and I don't like hypocrites. And he embodies both of those things. I don't like grifters, people who would sell snake oil to people who don't need it. I don't like people who, on the one hand, talk about themselves as being self-made, and on the other hand, never make anything. He's a cuckoo, and I keep saying this because it's important that we recognize he's a cuckoo. He implants himself in another person's organization and then finds a way to make him the owner of that organization, and then finds a way legally to be called the founder of that organization. He's not the founder of Tesla. The two gentlemen who founded Tesla are the founders of Tesla. He simply had a legal agreement with them when they left. He would be able to call themselves founder. That's it. So he's contrived this position, and he doesn't do anything unless he knows he's going to get something back for it. And now he's talking about involving himself in British politics by supporting the far right in Britain. And so I take offense at that. If he wants to screw up America, I'm not here for that either. I don't think that people will benefit from his presence in politics. But I certainly don't want him involved in British politics. And so I've been telling people, I think he is a capricious, cruel, deviant man who wants without need and is insatiable. He'll never have enough.
Hard to disagree. Elon Musk is that person. He is the kind of guy that is somehow being talked about for Speaker of the House. Like, what are we doing here? I know democracy had a good run, but we are allowing the billionaire class to continue to capture and install people that will protect their lack of taxes. I was going to say taxes, but lack thereof. And continue to enriching them by stealing from us. And I truly believe that when the right figures this out, I will welcome them with open arms. I think the recent events with the United Healthcare CEO has made some righties think a little differently. Are they ready for serious change to happen where we put in place certain people that we have to think until they get to office, maybe they change their mind, but that they will not steal from us and that they will not try to benefit the Trumps, the U-lines, you know, the Musks? I don't know. But I am waiting for that day. Because what Professor Amaechi said is hitting the nail on the head there. Now, for the Stephen A. stuff, I have gone on the record saying that there are some serious red flags with this guy, okay? I love how one of the tweeters underneath his own video said something happened in Coral Gables. It probably did, quite honestly. It probably did. But what we have is a repeated history from Stephen A. where he has made some really questionable comments about women in the past. And this wasn't even the worst. Amaechi says it was creepy. If I am being truly honest, I think the most beautiful women that I've ever seen was when I was in New York and LA. I don't know what he's talking about with Miami. I really don't. But I do tend to concur his approach was off-putting, let's say. But that is his shtick. That's the way he does things. That's the way he's going to continue to do things. So I suppose it is what it is. It's fun. We have fun at his expense. He sets himself up for it by doing all these things that are what I would call theatrical and acting in his segments. You know, the raising of the voice, the lowering of the voice, the hand movements, the smirks, the weed, crack, when he's talking about Lamar Odom, the sipping of the Starbucks straw, which, by the way, BDS, bro, come on. It's all an act. But he's also said that he wants to be more of an actor outside of ESPN. So it's fairly obvious.
The Republican Party is basically a party of the super rich, and they have to have a popular base. And one way in which they've organized the popular base is what are called, in the PR industry, values. Keep away from issues and focus on values. In other words, don't let people think about the fact average real wealth has actually declined for about 90% of the population. Don't let them think about that. Don't let them think about the fact that Americans have the highest workload in the world, the lowest benefits, the least social, that the only country with basically no advanced country with no health services. You can't take care of your elderly mother. I mean, don't let people think about that sort of thing. Let them think about rising to heaven when all the evil has been destroyed and the souls are saved. Okay. Or let them think about having a lot of guns that they can run around with and kill all the aliens who are going to attack them, or something like that. Let them think about those things, but keep away from the issues. Okay, don't deal with the fact that they really oppose these corporate-run globalization systems. Everybody opposes them, so let's not talk about them. And in fact, let's just keep away from all the issues and focus on values. So yeah, you get a mobilization of the extremist fundamentalist group, which is big in the United States.
And hey, just a quick break in the action. You should go subscribe to my new show, The Rick Strom Show. I'm going to be interviewing people from sports, music, journalists, authors, sports doctors. It's going to be fantastic. Please go subscribe. Thank you. The great Noam Chomsky. One person that I would love to interview. And there are many, of course, on that list. There are studies that have been done. There have been TED Talks that have been made. There have been documentaries put together, books that have been written, classes that have been taught. And this sort of dialogue continues to this day as we elect a fascist. And yeah, I'll say it. He's a fascist. I think he's a fascist. And I think a good portion of his base supports fascism. It's sort of like that Steve Bannon clip from many years ago where one person stood up at a conference that Bannon was hosting and said, I've never been into dictators, but if we were to have one, I would support Trump. That's what she said. Bannon giddily smiled, and the room cheered. That is what we're up against. And yet, when I take a step back as a proud leftist on this network, and this is also, let me be very clear, something that has been my political journey. I didn't really know where I was until I started learning and reading, understanding policy, seeing how the ultra-wealthy take advantage of us. They throw out these distractions and they politicize it. Even though the right says that they want limited government, they don't. They want government in our lives, controlling our bodies, and killing us because they don't care about climate change. It does not benefit the ultra-wealthy to have any sort of positive impact when it comes to climate change. And I will always stand up for trans people. I will stand up for the marginalized. I will stand up for the oppressed. And yet, simultaneously, they will use already oppressed people as a crutch to divide the political spectrum. And that's why this United Healthcare story is quite scary for them. Because how I see it, what many in this country are maybe, I'm not all the way aboard like some people, but maybe starting to see is, oh my God, they really are taking advantage of us. The Republicans and Democrats are siding with the corporations. And meanwhile, my loved one has leukemia and can't afford XYZ in order to just live, so we got to start GoFundMes? Ooh, no, I don't think so. Chomsky is right that the Republicans are the party of the ultra-wealthy. Dems are too, to some extent at least. Why else, even if her family wasn't involved, would Kamala Harris listen to Uber executives? And, you know, Mark Cuban can have a good point here or there, but why would you placate your entire policy to billionaires? There's still this myth both parties have, which is trickle-down economics. It's untrue. It's flat out untrue. And then you go back and look at the chairman, Fred Hampton, who was able to unite white working class people and black working class people and say, you are not my enemy. They are our enemy. You know what they would hate? Us together as one. And we all know what happened there. So my question to all of you is this. Is there ever going to be that moment? Will we ever unite and realize that it is class warfare that they have inflicted upon us? It does not have to be this way. We don't have to live this way. Yet they mandate us to live this way, to live paycheck to paycheck, to barely afford groceries because they allow the ultra wealthy and their companies to price gouge us. Does it have potential? Could you see it happening? In my lifetime? I don't know. I think about this a lot. Sometimes the messaging from the right can have a leftist theme. And yet, when you try to just say, yeah, but your party doesn't want that, and to a degree, the other party doesn't want that, maybe we should do this other thing, they freak out. I really don't know. I worry for the future. I worry for my kids' future. I worry for the future from an existential threat perspective of climate change. I'm being dead ass right now. What will it take? What will it take for many on the right? Because I know fellow lefties, and not libs, but leftists, listen to Chomsky. They read his work. They value his opinion. When will we have that class consciousness? What will it take? Is it going to take one party being in power and continually screwing over the working class? How many times does the working class have to be screwed over before there is some sort of unity? Man, I really don't know. But I hope for it. I hope for it. Pray for it. I would love to see it. Because when we have that coming down to earth and realizing we are not enemies, but they have made us out to be enemies, the world will be a better place.
Tim, do you think you should apologize to Denton Loudermill, that guy that you accused of being a mass shooter? I think he wants to left it up for 4 days, Tim, and never apologized to the guy. Why didn't you apologize to that guy? It's such an easy thing to do. Just apologize to the man.
You know, your mother told me, allegedly, that you were the second biggest disappointment in her life.
Everyone remember when the disgraceful clown that is Tim Burchett showed his contempt for being held accountable by his constituents for his actions?
All of the bills that gave money to Tennessee that funded all these projects that everybody loves around here, why did you oppose all of those?
Because only 10% went to infrastructure.
What did the rest go to?
Woke programs that you and your followers like.
What does woke mean, Tim? What is woke?
You are woke.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh,
what's your definition?
Offensive.
Offensive to you?
No, offensive
so anything
to 90%.
That offends Tim Burchett? Isn't that most things? You seem to be offended by everything, Tim.
Most people are just offended by you.
What's the right amount of
debt? We have
$35
trillion.
What's the right amount of debt? What's the right amount of debt? What's a good amount of debt, Tim? Do you have personal debt?
Zero debt.
You have zero debt? I doubt that, Tim. Before that, that's great. What about raising taxes on the wealthy and corporations? What about that? If you want to deal with debt, shouldn't income be part of that equation and not just stopping spending? Isn't obstructing easy? Isn't that the easy way out for $174,000 a year just to say no to everything? Can't anybody do that? Can't we send a chair up there to do that, Tim? You could just send a chair up there to do that.
And when he ran away with his tail between his legs when confronted about the inconsistencies in his so-called solutions for reducing the national debt by Tennessee Hollow reporter Justin Canoe.
3 precious little kids lost their lives, and I believe 3 adults, and the shooter, of course, lost their life too. So it's a horrible, horrible situation, and we're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals. I don't see any real role that we could do other than mess things up, honestly, because of the situation. It's like I said, I don't think a criminal's going to stop from guns. You know, you can print them out on the computer now. 3D printing, and there's really, I don't think you're going to stop the gun violence. I think you've got to change people's hearts. You know, as a Christian, as we talk about in the church, and I've said this many times, I think we really need revival in this country.
How about when he threw his hands in the air and refused to even entertain the idea that Congress can at least help to quell the gun violence epidemic in the wake of the deadliest mass shooting in his state's history? When he's not spitting in the faces of his own constituents and calling Vice President Kamala Harris a, quote, DEI hire, close quote, who didn't deserve her current title, let alone the presidency, he's playing defense for some of the grossest people in the MAGA ecosystem.
It's a clown show. It's Congress 101. They're releasing it right now, right before the big budget thing. It'll be a flake in the pan, and Matt will go on and make millions. Every one of these folks on the Republican side was appointed by the former speaker, which Matt and I both disposed of, I guess you would say. And
so you think this is revenge?
It's a revenge tour, and they're not winning because Matt's already got a new job, and he's doing well, and he's married to a beautiful woman. So it was wonderful, and I wish him well. It is not a court of law. I think it's vindictive in nature. I just don't see what the point in all this is. A couple of old-timers are going to cackle about it. And again, it's not been proven. This is just a report.
He goes to bat for this credibly alleged child trafficker, former Trump Attorney General nominee, former Florida congressman, and potential future Florida governor or senator, Matt Gaetz. Shout out to Politics on Twitter for the edit here. Now, if you somehow still haven't heard about or read the House Ethics Committee report for yourself,
they believe that they found substantial evidence that Matt Gaetz is guilty of statutory rape, that he engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl who at the time testified before the committee that she had just finished her junior year of high school. This was during a party in 2017 where this girl testified to the committee. She's now a woman, but testified to the committee at the time that she and Gaetz had sex on 2 different occasions at this party. They also had that testimony backed up by the testimony of other witnesses who were at this party at the same time. In fact, one of the engagements between this then girl and Gaetz happened in public view where other people could see it. They list some $90,000 in transactions among 12 different women, which they use messaging apps and cash apps, Venmo, things along those lines to connect the dots between Gaetz' sexual activity and these women. And then also the testimony from the women where they claimed that they believed that the activity that they were engaged in was the result of these payments from Gaetz.
While this disgusting and damning report doesn't legally prove Gaetz' guilt, the details and allegations speak for themselves.
The committee saying there's, quote, substantial evidence that Gaetz had sex with an underage girl in 2017, an allegation Gaetz has repeatedly denied. That woman, now in her 20s, told the committee she had sex with Gaetz when she was 17 and had just finished her junior year of high school. She said she never told Gaetz she was under 18 and he did not ask, but claims the then congressman paid her $400 in cash that evening, which, quote, she understood to be payment for sex. Now Gaetz is firing back on social media, saying the payments were gifts to women he was dating. The committee voting to publish its years-long investigation based on nearly 14,000 documents and more than 24 interviews.
Claims against Mr. Gaetz, I think, are sufficiently serious that we thought, that there should be transparency on this and that release was important for the public.
While Gaetz denies all wrongdoing and will more than likely fight these allegations for the rest of his political career, if he decides to go that route, Donald Trump, like the rest of MAGA, will be right there to defend his honor and welcome him back into the fold with open arms. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.